everybody, Lydia here, and welcome to my channel. I am so excited to talk about The Dragon Prince because it is such a good show with so many amazing characters. A character analyst like me is in heaven. I thought for this first video, why not break down the character that everyone loves to hate? In her Dragon Prince fandom video, check it out up here, Coley actually described Lord Viren as a grade A villain, even if you hate his character. Understandably so. But here is my opinion. I'm going to do her one better and say that Viren is one of the best villains in cartoon history because he isn't simply an evil character.
Are you sure about that?
Now, I did put evil in quotation marks. There's a reason for that, we'll get into it. But first and foremost, the crew put so much thought into his character. Every decision and action has a complex and profound reason behind it. And I'm so excited to break that all down with you. So let's get started. But not without giving Jason Simpson a huge round of applause. He is a solid voice actor and really does bring Viren to life.
I already told you the problem. It's dark magic.
Yes, it is. It's clever, it's brilliant, it's practical.
Now why don't we start with the official description of Lord Viren from the Dragon Prince website itself. They actually say that Viren is the High Mage of Katalis and King Harrow's closest advisor. He often presents creative solutions to the kingdom's problems and has even saved humanity from disaster. As such, he is cunning, ambitious, and bold. That might all seem obvious, but it's actually so much to unpack. Let's get started. Now first off, yes, Viren is the High Mage of Katalis because he has mastered dark magic without any problems with it. Since Viren is all about the end result, without a care about the implications of the journey to get there, it makes sense that he can justify dark magic. Does that make him evil though? Apparently not quite, at least not according to one of the directors of the show, Giancarlo Volpe. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. But still, he classifies Viren as a chaotic neutral character, which means that Viren's pretty much only allegiance is to his own ideals and his own plan.
No matter what you have to sacrifice, or who.
If it's himself, his kids, it doesn't matter. It's all worth it in the end. I reiterate this because this is essentially the defining aspect of Viren's character. Now, I know it's pretty shady of him because he's really unpredictable. He's a bit of a wild card because you don't know if his loyalties will shift. They have already shifted in the show. I mean, when we first met Viren, he was in King Harrow's confidence. He, I think, even admired how devoted Harrow was to his people, and Viren himself saw that the country's well-being was the king's I dare say, the king's foremost priority. That being said, once the king made his position of dark magic very clear, Viren sort of snapped and resorted to his own plan. And I know how evil that sounds, kind of turning your back on someone you considered a brother, but there's one more point to make. And Awestruck Vox actually already made it in his video, but I'm going to iterate it in this video because it's particularly relevant. Viren refrains from killing if he doesn't have to. And that's the case for majority of the first two seasons. Runan, no one would have complained, at least no human would have complained about Runan's death if it were to happen, but it wasn't necessary. On top of that, Commander Gren, I mean, poor man, I love him, he is my everything, but Viren still had every reason to kill him, still didn't. I believe that Viren even saved King Harrow in a way. I mean, he could have just let the elves do away with Harrow, would have been neat and easy for Viren, but again, he didn't, because he didn't absolutely have to, at least in his opinion. Now I know that he sent Soren after the princes, not cool, but that was because he believed that the kingdom and all of humanity was doomed if Ezran or Callum were in charge. Okay, dramatic, much, but still. And yeah, I will also concede the point that he killed many soldiers that were trying to arrest him. But I think that last one has more to do with Erebos' manipulation than Viren's own ideals. Now, there's one last thing to break down when it comes to the official description of Viren, and that has to do with his great vision of humanity's future. Now, we all know that Viren is a fan of dark magic. In fact, he describes it as brilliant and practical. He, I think as well, thinks it's an even way to level the playing field, considering that humans are not born connected to a primal source and are therefore at a disadvantage in this world. With dark magic, they can actually defend themselves, care for themselves, essentially take little advantage of their world. Viren essentially doesn't see dark magic as a practice worthy of fear or condemnation. Thus, the punishment of all of humanity for this practice is extremely unfair at the best, at least in Viren's point of view. That is why he is obsessed, completely devoted to restoring humanity's place, rightful place in his opinion, in Xadia. I do think that everything he's done in this show has been at least to protect humanity, if not for that ultimate goal of returning to Xadia. Kidnapping the Dragon Prince for dark experiments, killing Thunder to weaken the border, all of that had that ideal behind it. There is one last thing about dark magic to mention, and it is that it actually corrupts the user or the practitioner over time, both physically and personality-wise. It's impossible at this point to say how much of Viren's personality has been corrupted because we have no idea what he was like before he started using dark magic. I will say at least that his personality as we know him now is defined by his mastery of dark magic. In other words, he would be a very different man if it weren't for his practice of dark magic.
I know you will stand by me through anything.
In the first 3 episodes of season 1, we get a glimpse of the trust and admiration between Lord Viren and King Harrow. In an interview with Luke Rodrigue and Jason Simpson, the voice actors for King Harrow and Lord Viren respectively, they actually say that these characters are close because of their different ideologies. They're essentially opposites that balance each other out. There's Lord Viren with his innovative and out-of-the-box thinking, that's putting it nicely. And then there's King Harrow with his compassion that tempered Viren's shrewd and dry nature. Now, as I said, the two of them, and Viren especially, actually, I dare say actually admired King Harrow. He was even willing to lay down his life for the king. And that really says something. What is important to keep in mind though is that Harrow actually broke off their bromance pretty quickly in the 3rd episode. It seemed uncharacteristically fast, but we see through flashbacks from season 2 that he has come to the gradual realization that dark magic is actually pretty bad. He realized that, through Queen Sarai's sacrifice and even his own life on the line, that there is always a price to dark magic. I find it even ironic that Lord Viren has never had his life on the line because of his practice. It's always people close to him that suffer for it. Anywho, Harrow was right to kind of put his foot down and try to put Viren in his place once Viren really pushed the issue with the soul thing. Unfortunately, it had the opposite effect. Viren just felt antagonized for providing these services that Harrow has asked of him for all these years. Without King Harrow's compassion, Viren has reverted back to his dry and shrewd ways. And unfortunately, that means that he has a very amoral compass to guide him now. Now, despite General Amaya's belief that Viren is an opportunist, Simpson actually clarified that Viren is not trying to take advantage of Harrow's death. Remember, he tried to prevent it, and I do believe he did prevent Harrow's death because, well, he intended to sacrifice himself because he did not want the nation to become fraught and unsafe with Harrow's assassination. I will concede the point that Viren is doing what he thinks is best for his country. He's doing what he thinks is necessary to protect it. And while, protecting your country can be a noble endeavor, Viren in particular has always relied on aggressive tactics to do it. Viren is motivated by more negative emotions like fear and even anger. He uses those emotions to appeal to high-ranking Catulian officials or even the other kings and queens of the human kingdoms. It doesn't work though. His fear-mongering tactics gave way to rational arguments. How did he react to that? Yeah, by lashing out as a fearful person would. And on top of that, he is also very close-minded, so he seems incapable of recognizing the fact that he is wrong. There is a better way to protect humanity, and that is what Ezran and Callum are doing, brokering peace with Zadia.
Losing her has been the hardest thing that's ever happened to me.
Another missing piece of Viren's morality has to do, in my opinion, with the split between him and his now ex-wife. If he cared for her in any way, I think the split did affect him, maybe even to the level that it affected Claudia. Now, I think we see aspects of her personality in Claudia and Soren, considering that they're very quirky and even have a kind nature to them. Keeping that in mind, I think I can understand why she accepted Viren's softer or sweeter sides and how she could tolerate his intensity, toxicity, long enough to actually raise children with him. Obviously, she had to leave for her own sanity, and I don't hold that against her. I still think somehow that the split kind of resulted in the beginning of Viren's decline. In other words, because he lost essentially his better half in a way, he started reverting back to his shrewd ways. Now, speaking of Claudia and Soren, they are his children, therefore Viren is technically a father. The wiki for Viren's character mentions that he usually wears this intense expression, except around his children. And while I don't quite see that in the show itself, if I'm honest, even Giancarlo Volpe has mentioned that Viren will be affectionate from time to time with his kids. He'll play with them when they were younger. He appreciates Claudia's cooking as well. So he does have this side to him. He also holds them in high regard because he wouldn't place these secret missions on them if he didn't trust them to the point that he does. The one thing, and it's really important to keep this in mind, is that he did pit them against each other. So he is obviously a terrible father, and I don't want in any way to condone anything he's done. I just find it interesting that perhaps he had this kind and supportive side to him, But that's long gone now that the better people in his life have understandably lost their patience with him.
Those who fail tests of love are simple animals. They deserve to be motivated by fear.
Before being captured, Viren sent off some fake shadow elves to terrorize the other human kingdoms. And I hope there are dark magic practitioners in those human kingdoms who can see Viren's ruse for what it is, and that will keep Viren locked up for a really long time. Unfortunately, that would just be too easy, wouldn't it? So unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that Viren's plan will have its intended consequence, with the other human kingdoms rushing to stop the Zadian threat. Their desire, perhaps for Viren's expertise and foresight, if he was right all along, might be enough to get him free of his charges. Regardless of that, it's definitely going to make Ezran's attempt to keep the peace much harder. Now, going back to Viren though, the creators of the show, Aaron Ehas and Justin Richmond, did say that Viren's relationship with his children is going to get complicated once they return to the capital and realize what Viren has been up to since they've been gone. Now, I think there might even be some fallout that can occur if Viren continues to pit them against each other. What I've noticed in the last 2 seasons is that they're actually closer to each other than they are to their father. And that's really saying something, because they crave his approval and his love. Especially Soren. Breaks my heart. They do not deserve Viren as a dad. So what I hope for is that they do away with him and they cut ties with him so that they can better themselves and maybe even ally themselves with Callum, Ezran, and Rayla. But we'll see what is to come in season 3. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching this entire video. It's like 20 minutes long, basically. I really appreciate that. If there's anything that you agreed or even disagreed with, comment below. Maybe I even missed something when it comes to Viren. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, go at it below. Something I know that some of my older viewers and followers might ask about is my Ninja Turtle videos, because I know I haven't finished talking about that show yet. I do have a video in the works to just wrap up my thoughts on the series, so that is in the making. Thank you for your patience thus far, and we will all talk next time. Until then, my ninjas.